Hey guys, what's up? Mad Season here, back with another video for you. Alright, so Classic Plus, it's not confirmed yet, but in my opinion it's a 99% chance of releasing. We recently went over the why and all of the hints that Blizzard has been dropping over the past several months. I'll have a link to that video in the description if you are curious. But what I wanted to focus on today is realistically, what would it look like considering Blizzard's development practices and history, and also going over things such as the Classic Plus-esque survey questions that they've shared in the past, and also the fact that Blizzard has said that the entire season of Discovery was a big experiment. But an experiment for what, you may be asking? Well, let's get into it. Before we begin though, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Surfshark's VPN. Surfshark is a VPN that encrypts your internet activity to keep snoopers and trackers from seeing what you're doing. It's quite easy to use. You just open it, pick a server.
Anybody in the chat use a VPN?
And you're protected. They have over 4,500 servers in over 100 locations.
I never felt the need to use a VPN.
So you can cover your PC, phone, laptop, and basically your whole household. I mainly use them on streaming websites.
But maybe I should someday.
Based on your geographical location, and they have a much larger library than what's visible to you. So you just find out what regions get what content.
Maybe if you live in a country or something where you can't get something, and you want to like watch that content that's in another country, that would be a good idea. Like if you lived in a different country and you wanted to watch stuff from your home country, that's when I would probably use a VPN if I ever moved away from the United States. All right, shout out Surfshark code MAD for Mad Season.
For this in the comment and description. So there are two very big pieces of information that we're going to be going over in this video, starting first with the Season of Discovery. In both the announcement itself and throughout the development, and even in the send-off for the game mode, when they announced that it was no longer being developed, they had made mention several times that this temporary game mode was experimental in nature, or they say things like they learned a lot from it. So combining this with
because they outright came out and said that SOD was experimental, and they announced this at BlizzCon, because I remember everybody getting really excited, and I was like, this is going to be a beta, and they're not calling it a beta because they know that people won't play a beta, and they want a lot of people to play it, and so they called it a Season of Discovery. Basically, like they called it a league. They called it like Leagues 1. But Season of Discovery is just Leagues 1, pretty much is what happened. And now they got a bunch of feedback, and they're seeing where they pushed the game too far. But you guys know how sometimes in RuneScape leagues, how they take things from leagues and they'll put it into the actual game, or maybe like a watered down version of it. Sometimes they get inspiration from pushing the game too far, and then they dial it back. And so that's basically what Season of Discovery was for World of Warcraft. And so now we're gonna see like where Classic Plus ends up, because we've already seen how when they push it too far.
With other various teases like the weird 2026 state of review thing.
All Classic players across the globe have a lot to look forward to. I'm really excited to announce that. I guess we'll save that for later.
As well as this line from your yearbook with a bunch of plus symbols. I think it's fairly reasonable to assume that the core
complete and total world domination. That's right, Matt Morse.
The greatest successes of Discovery, while hopefully leaving out the not so successful things. And this is where it gets subjective, because what are successes and failures, right? But trying to take the most objective look possible.
I'm trying to apply on World 615, but it can't apply on this world. Yo, you're gonna have to get with one of our officers, and they will get you into the guild. You're gonna have to talk with one of them on Discord. They'll get you in, bro. It might not be right now, but they'll get you in, okay?
Probably a good place to start is with one of its most major features, which is the rune system. Although during its release in 2004, the class balance of the game was quite impeccable by the time standards. It is definitely something that by today's standards hasn't aged the best in some ways for some people.
You know what I forgot? Stay Safe was one of the first people to play hardcore RuneScape. I freaking forgot about that.
Personally, if I may interject my opinion here, I like it. I think it has charm, and I think that the roles are much more specialized, which
one of the first WoW
gives
players.
the classes values and these special jobs that only they excel at. Like, I think it's cool that mages are by far the best AoE class, or warriors are the best tanks. And, you have other various classes and specs being great at some things and bad at other things. I think that weaknesses are often mischaracterized as flaws, but they're just as valuable as strengths in the identity of classes and specializations. And if you treat weaknesses as flaws to be fixed, eventually everything just kind of melds into one another, and the classes no longer have these interesting identities that separate them from each other. Because eventually everybody's mobile, everybody's good at AoE, single target tanking, and the balance becomes better, but it also becomes as boring as my voice. But of course the other extreme isn't the best either, where of course in vanilla you have some classes and specs that are severely broken, such as balanced druids going out of mana in like 10 seconds or whatever. So this was one of the major focuses of the Season of Discovery, and they addressed it with the rune system, where players could find all of these different unique runes throughout the world that sort of fill out all of the different specializations.
You know what we discovered from Season of Discovery? People didn't enjoy going out to discover their skills. They just wanted them given to them. And then eventually they just put a vendor into the game where people just got the skills. People got kind of tired of that really quickly.
These, from what I recall, were received fairly well. There were some issues. Some people liked them not only for their effect on the class balance of the game, but also in the way that you obtained them. Initially, at least, they weren't just patched into the game or you just trained them at a class trainer. They were often hidden in the world or locked behind quest chains or faction reputations. They did try to leverage one of Vanilla's biggest strengths, which is that world presence. However, this would eventually backfire on them, as shown with them eventually just releasing an NPC that sold every rune for a copper from the starting area. The reason why they did this is that they felt like they went a little too overboard, and as time went on, at a certain point, there were so many runes that starting a new character kind of became a daunting task for people, so they just made them easily available. But as they said, it was all an experiment.
It's because there was too many runes, and some of them were way too hard to get. Like the mage one, we got to port to 13 different places all over the map. That one took like a day on its own, and people just didn't want to do that anymore. As a non-WoW player, is the idea of Classic Plus making the game more sandbox? I guess you could say that. But the real answer is nobody knows. And so all we know is like there was an experiment which was called Season of Discovery. They tried a bunch of things. People were like, yo, some of this stuff is too far. Like warlocks probably shouldn't be able to tank. Rogues probably shouldn't be able to tank. Mages probably shouldn't be able to heal. It just didn't feel right. And then I liked a lot of the rotations. But like there were some like I played a mage, and there's this bolt called Balefire Bolt, and if you cast it 10 times, you would die. Like it would one shot you. So you had to cast it 9 times, and then stop. I don't know if that worked very well. Shit. I don't know if that worked very well. I didn't like it. But I like the rotations being a little bit more complex than just pressing one button. I did like that a lot.
So maybe this is something that they picked up on and will monitor more closely. Another major feature of Discovery, I'd say, is world presence. This is kind of tied into the runes as mentioned, but there was some additional content added to the world in the form of secrets, new quests and areas and whatnot. Not really much else to say about that, though. I think it's kind of an expected standard request on most people's lists. I guess one thing to say is that it would be important, I think, to not get tunnel visioned on new content solely at the max level, but Discovery had new content from beginning to end, and that was largely due to the phase level caps that it was structured around. As I remember, people generally liked the idea of this, and most issues that they had with it came down to specific execution for each phase. This, as they stated themselves, was inspired by the progressive testing of the Classic 2019 beta, when the phases were split up in different level caps. It introduced some interesting new metas that weren't really explored as much since, the game is hyper-analyzed, but of course primarily at level 60. So by having progressive level caps, they aim to add an additional layer of a fresh and unique feeling, which I do think that they largely achieved, with a lot of the criticisms of this dynamic being tied more towards the...
Yeah, but so what they did was every 10 levels, they added they converted a dungeon into a raid. And so it would be like a 10-man raid. But if that happened as you were leveling, I don't know how many people would do them. I mean, maybe they would on fresh, but eventually not a lot of people did them anymore once people stopped leveling, because you just out leveled them so fast because the leveling was so quick. If the leveling was slowed down, I could see level up raids being a lot more of a thing on a full, like a regular paced server where like leveling was a lot slower, and you could do the raid, you know, once per day. They do raid lockouts, so you can't just spam the raids to level. Because they were pretty good experience. And then like the first time you do it, you get a quest done, which gives you an item or gives you a burst of experience for doing it. And then after that, beyond that, you could repeat it for items, but it didn't give that great of experience. So I could maybe see the level up raids working like in a slower paced server. But once everybody once the servers had been out for a while, there wasn't very many people that were going back and doing these level up raids because people just out leveled them too quick.
Level up raids associated with them rather than the level caps themselves. As far as I remember, Gnomrigan and more so Sunken Temple in particular were kind of received poorly, with Sunken Temple in particular being...
I don't know if I want to play WoW if it makes you as depressed as this guy's voice. Dude, this guy's a RuneScape player now. This guy hasn't played WoW in 2 years. Okay, so maybe RuneScape's making him that way, huh?
Kind of a moment where a large percentage of the player base did see a drop-off. And
nah, that's just how he is.
Here, you may remember that they did dip into old abandoned content from the original run. Specifically, they did the Cares and Crypts being turned into a dungeon. They did the Scarlet Crusade raid, as well as a quest line for the legendary Ashbringer, to name just a few examples. But these are extremely common requests within the community, so there's no real insightful information to glean from this. It's just kind of an automatic thing, but still worth mentioning, I thought. So the Season of Discovery holds some information, and if you did play it, chances are that the skeleton of Classic Plus will be fairly similar to it. Yeah, the fact that they kept saying over and over again that it's an experiment, we're testing stuff, we learned so much from X, Y, and Z for the future, I think is very indicative in the role that it will play for Classic Plus. But beyond this, we also have the survey. In 2025, Blizzard sent out a survey to players asking about a hypothetical version of Classic, and they pitched many different specific features. So we don't have answers to these, only Blizzard has them. However, there has been a community-run survey called the Classic Plus Project, which I'll have linked in the description, with similar or even the same questions so we can kind of compare. And something that's really interesting with this survey is that there's another content creator on YouTube named Jordy who makes classic World of Warcraft videos.
Shout out Jordy!
And he made a video about this survey, and in the comments was Agrand, who's been like the main classic guy. And if you did see my previous video, as you would know, he's working on a classic project that doesn't have anything to do with Miss Pandaria Classic or Classic Anniversary, so that would only leave Classic Plus as the thing he's working on. And
so Agrand is kind of like our mod Aiza in the WoW area, but he just has a lot less interaction. It's way more mysterious on what he's doing behind the scenes. They did do an interview with Crix and with Hammer Dance and with Ebonheart, I believe, but they're not as transparent about what they're doing in the community, and they definitely don't poll the community for anything. They do everything behind the scenes, so they have way less interaction with the WoW community as a whole.
Commenting on a video about the very survey that we're about to go over. So the idea here is that we can use
much more
these
corporate
to make reasonable guesses on the data that Blizzard has gotten, and depending on the results, what features may or may not make it into the game, assuming that they're following the results of the survey. There are about 40 questions in total. Some of them are very common.
Maybe they should change that. Dude, if Blizzard started like doing more things with content creators, doing like private server tournaments for the community, like generating hype and they got rid of some of the corporate walls, and they could maybe release some funding to help them do that, I mean, it would change. It would change Blizzard. It would change the entire corporation. I mean, and all I'm saying here is just make their company more like Jagex, basically. But it would defy anything that they've done in the past, and like they could really start to like build themselves back up again if they change the way they do things. But that'll never happen. I think they're too big of a company now.
Requests for Classic Plus from the community, and others I personally have never seen before. So we'll just go over them one by one here, and then we'll go over the community score to see how people answered them. Starting with the rather popular one here, we have cross-faction Shamans and Paladins. This was, of course, a feature released in the Burning Crusade expansion with the Draenei and Blood Elf races, where Horde got Paladins and the Alliance got Shamans, which was a major change to the balance of the game. There's a matching public survey response from this, and the community has responded largely in favor out of about 47,000 responses. I guess I'm the minority here because I actually like the separation. I do think it's a fairly major part of the identity of vanilla. I know it's done for balance, but again, some imbalance can be interesting, and it kind of gives the factions different identities in both PvE and PvP. I've always been a fan of having different strategies and the different areas of the game, depending on what faction you are. While the balance of vanilla can definitely be improved, I think, again, it's also important to not go too overboard. Next, we have collections, UI-based storage system.
He just described all of Classic Plus right there. It's balance the game, but don't make it too balanced. Good luck, Blizzard.
System for pets, mounts, and toys to free up inventory space. The community responded again with a resounding yes. Inventory space, as you probably know, plays a pretty big role in vanilla, both as an annoyance, but also as a form of balance to limit like how many consumables or gadgets you can bring if you're an engineer. But at least for the more collection-based stuff like mounts, pets, and toys, the community wants a dedicated storage / interface for those. Next, we have 1v1 duel arenas. The ability to go into a special dueling arena for 1v1.
Dude, that's actually so true, Anak. Anak said Classic Plus is turning into what can we add from retail without pissing people off? Dude, that's exactly what it is. And what new areas can we add that still fit into the Classic lore? You know what I mean? But that's basically what it is. What can we merge that works very well in retail and still keep the Classic feel? Because I don't know how much reinventing of the wheel they're going to do. They've already got 20 years of MMO developing experience to know what worked really well. They can see what works in other games too. I'm sure they've got their eye on old school RuneScape. And they're looking at that to see what they could incorporate from old school RuneScape that works into the game. And so I hope they're able to pull something off here. But it is tough because every time you say they're like, yeah, I want Mythic Plus in Classic, there's going to be like a wave of people that are like, no, that's a retail thing. We don't want that. So they have to do it. I don't know how they're going to do this. I really don't. It's tough. But that's basically, yeah, you're right. That is kind of what's happening.
First one, contests that are viewable by spectators. The community responded mostly receptive, with most saying yes, and the next saying yes and let us bet gold because gambling culture has taken over the world, with the last 23% saying no. I am a fan of.
How do you feel about an arena ranked dueling system? The 1v1 duels is a very classic thing. I think this would be fun. This would be like an Amir's Arena. I think this would be sick.
I've been saying this for years, actually. I think that community events are huge for the game. Some of you might remember the OTK tournament that was hosted a while ago that pulled in like hundreds of thousands of viewers. I think it gets more eyes on the game. It gets more people playing, and I just think it lends itself well to the whole idea because everybody always says vanilla is about community, right? So making it easier for these organizers to make
class imbalance makes that not work. It is kind of true. Like Warlocks have always been sort of the kings of 1v1s. But it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. There are things you can do to make it a bit more balanced. However, in World of Warcraft is rock, paper, scissors, right? Like there's some classes that are better versus others. So there are, maybe a warlock might not be every class, especially if they did some things to make one class better versus that class, right? So when you queue into an arena, how you climb is like most of the time you're going to lose to a warlock. But if you could beat a warlock every now and then you would start to climb. So it might be something like that. I don't know if a ranked system needs to be in Classic Plus. It should be maybe more of like a player prestige thing, where the players kind of control like who's the prestige. But I'd be interested to see a dueling arena, and they could just start it with that, right? I think that would be sick.
These tournaments and have spectator tools and whatnot, so they don't have to go into out of bounds areas to avoid interference. Well,
a class like where you only play mirror matches, I think that would get kind of boring. Kinjello. Yeah, I don't think so. No, definitely don't add staking. I think we learned from RuneScape about that.
Make it so they happen much more frequently, which I think can be really good for the game. So I'm also very much in favor of this. In fact, I say go even further and have this whole dueling island that you can only get to through a GM teleport, and have it filled with, vendors for food and drinks, class trainers to respec, basically everything to support some sort of PvP dueling tournament. I don't know. You could really leverage it in huge ways, I think, but that would also require Blizzard to hire an actual human employee to work as a GM. And I did actually calculate the chances of this happening. It's really interesting because it just happens to be 0.016% chance, repeating of course, which completely coincidentally is the exact same chance of the people who swore up and down that the WoW token wasn't coming at.
Let's go, Thomas. Happy 4th to you, sir. Rock that Infernal Cape proudly. Thank you, my man. And congratulations.
After the level boost released, actually coming back to my channel and saying that they were wrong because I told them so, by the way. Next we have modern character models, assuming this would be a personal option that would be toggled on and off by the players. I personally don't have an interest in this because I thought the whole idea was to not play modern World of Warcraft, but this is how the answers turned out on the Classic Plus project, with 1 being strongly disagree and 10 being strongly agree. Next is leveling profession improvements.
Strongly disagree. That's what I put. Nothing from retail. I don't want any of the animations or anything from retail in Classic. Classic looks great.
The ability to make more usable
Don't
gear
touch
for
the
yourself
graphics
as you level, and to be able to craft it at level appropriate trade skill levels. So here we have a resounding yes. This
watch
is
that guy.
actually
Yeah,
a
man.
pretty
Thank you,
common
sir.
criticism with vanilla World of Warcraft is that if you're really on top of your trade skills and you go super out of your way to level them, you can make some useful gear. However, usually for the average player, by the time you get to the trade skill level to make something, you've already gotten something better from a quest or a dungeon or whatever. So
professions are near useless in Classic. They need a complete revamp, like a complete overhaul of the profession system. Like they need to change the entire game. I think it's just outdated.
Assuming that this feedback matches what Blizzard has, and Blizzard listens to the feedback, there's a very high chance that this would see a change. New class abilities and spells. Brand new class abilities or spells unique to this version of Classic. This was something that was in the Season of Discovery. Many of the runes, in fact I would say the majority of them, were abilities from other expansions like Burning Crusade and Wrath and whatnot, but they did have some new ones here and there from what I recall. It's also a very common request, and as you can see it holds a resounding yes from the independent survey at almost 21,000
Oh yeah,
responses.
class changes for sure.
Next we do have a question relating to the honor system. Move honor rewards away from the original model and towards a more seasonal mode where new honor rewards are added to coincide with the new PvE raid tier.
You know what all these changes though sound like to me? Let me explain this in a RuneScape term. All of these things that they're trying to do to make Classic Plus, it doesn't feel like a new game. You know what this feels like? it feels like a summer sweep up. It just feels like they're tweaking stuff that they should have tweaked a long time ago. And we're just getting like a patch. And all these changes that people are saying, it doesn't feel like a new game. Like it doesn't feel like a classic plus. It just feels like they're just doing shit they should have already done. You know what I mean? And it doesn't make me want to go and like play the game. Like with all of these things that Mad Season's bringing up and all the questions that the Classic Plus survey, like what I want is like new leveling zones. I want Classic Plus to be like 10,000 years before or after, and it's like it's still the classic universe, the classic world, classic MMO, but I want WoW 2. I want WoW 2. I don't want to do Molten Core again. I don't want any of the raid. I don't want to do Blackwing Layer again. I don't want to do AQ again. I don't even, maybe Nax. I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to do Nax again. Like I want new raids, but for it to still be, that's what I would want. Because like all this stuff to me, like I said, it just sounds like they're doing a summer sweep up of the old game and they're like doing what they should have already done. But that's why all these survey questions and stuff, not a lot of them get me very hype, because it's just like, oh yeah, we'll tweak this, we'll tweak that. And it's like, okay, what we got the same ass game with just some balance changes. And now you can play Pally on the Horde side. It's not really, all these questions don't really fire me up about playing it. I feel like it needs a polling system where it's destined to fail. You don't understand. Nothing will pass. Nothing will pass if they do a polling system in WoW, because there's too many in classic WoW has too many like no change Andes. I don't know. They could experiment with the polling system. I think it would fail.
Your updates, so is essentially the system that they've used from the Burning Crusade and onwards with the seasonal PvP gear. Whenever new raid tier comes out, a new
Classic
PvP
Plus could be sick in like 5 years.
They kind of shuffle.
Maybe we need to let them cook on it.
Those items. There's a public
question. What? Maybe they start with the summer sweep up and they add new content. I don't know if RuneScape. I think RuneScape was kind of like not crazy cool until like 2017, right? When they added chambers and fight caves and Infernal Cape. Like that's when RuneScape popped off. So that was 5 years after they released it. So you know what? Maybe Classic Plus is going to suck for the first 5 years. So did RuneScape. There we go. They're gonna need 5 years on top of whatever they release. So we'll start with the summer sweep up and we'll give them time.
Relating to the old rank 14 system, but it is a little different, offering 4 options, which is remove the weekly rank system and you just rank up as you get honor. In second place, there's an unspecified overhaul. And third, it's the same weekly system, but with no decay. And lastly is just keep it as is. So, having done the rank 14 grind in the 2019 run, I am of the opinion that it is a pretty bad system overall. Yeah,
the honor system is terrible. I don't even do PvP and I know it's bad. Blizzard is a company with bigger resources though. That is where you are right and wrong. Bigger company means they have more walls they have to break through to get anything done, so they get less done. More resources, but they get less done because their hands are tied. Jagex is a smaller company that operates more like an independent studio, and they get a lot more done. And they poll the community to make sure that they don't waste any of their time. They don't want to have to revert things, nerf and buff things, but they still have to, obviously. They still miss the bar sometimes, but that's just normal. But they really want to make sure that they don't waste their time at Jagex, which I think is great by polling the community.
It's ludicrously grindy and unhealthy and toxic, and I think it's only gotten worse over time as people have become more sweaty. It definitely rewards time investment and not skill. It encourages pre-mades dodging other pre-mades because it's more honor efficient to just stomp pubs all the time. I guess if you're asking my opinion, I'd probably go with option 2. Class talent adjustments.
What was option 2? What was option 2?
Ludicrously grindy and unhealthy and toxic, and
no, it's very bad.
It's only gotten worse over time. It encourages all the time.
Throw the entire system out and go back to the drawing board. Yeah, I say that one too. Remove the weekly rank system. Honor goes up, rank goes up. Ranks require set amounts, and as soon as you reach it, you rank up. You're gonna have to ask somebody who really cares about PvP, because I don't. But all I know, you guys know how it works. You guys, I'm gonna explain to you how this works right now. Basically, you have to do spam battlegrounds and get a certain amount of honor kills. Let's say you have to go get like a thousand honor kills, and you have 1 week to do it. If you don't hit your 1,000 honor kills in that week, you don't rank. You go back to you stay your current rank, and then it resets to 0. So if you got 999 honor kills, you don't rank up, and now you have to get those 999 again next week, and then you have to get one more to hit your 1,000, and then you'll rank up. So you have 1 week to play, and it's like it feels bad. Like the reset system, it just feels bad because it's like you're rubber banding all the time. Like it just feels like you're doing it's everything you're doing is useless if you can't hit the exact number that you need. And I don't like it. I think they need to throw the whole thing out and go back to the drawing board. It's not a good system.
I guess if you're asking my opinion, I'd probably go with option 2. Class talent adjustments, streamlining and improving class talent trees to make weaker specializations and classes more viable while still maintaining the overall feel and flow of classic combat. The closest survey response is...
I'm more in favor for like this RuneScape style system where it's a really long grind, but every single honor kill that you get is added towards that really long grind. Like maybe you need 100,000 honor kills. So every time you get a kill, you're working towards that progress. Like it's a very long grind where you never lose. Every kill you get, it just adds up over time. There's no time gating, no resetting, no rubber banding, no losing XP. It's just a very long grind. But once you've done it, you've done it. You know what I mean? And that just shows you like this guy's played the game for a long time. I prefer that style of system. But that's my opinion.
In the form of how severely each spec needs a major revamp, with Retribution Paladin leading the charge here. And generally, as you would imagine, it's the weaker specs on top. So just something I think that's kind of just baked into class changes as a whole, and kind of a boring entry because, again, it's pretty much 100% chance that they're going to be doing class balance changes. But for the sake of thoroughness, I just wanted to mention it. Next.
Also, I think they should remove PvP gear. I know some WoW players aren't going to like that, but I don't think PvP. Maybe there's some pieces that are better in PvP, like a small amount of them. But like I don't really like the idea of PvP gear that much.
We have playable high elves for both the Horde and Alliance, so kind of a Pandaren type of dynamic here where I guess you would probably do a short quest line and at the end you choose a faction or something. And the closest thing on the survey is this chart for the most popular new race requests, with high elves landing at the second place behind blood elves. Other popular choices are the goblins from Cataclysm, Draenei from the Burning Crusade.
New races
are pretty popular.
I don't care about any of this, bro. Like the cosmetic stuff, bro, put it all in the game if people want. Like it doesn't matter. If you want to play a blood elf, go ahead. You know, let Shobek play whatever hairstyle he wants. That doesn't matter to me. I care about like the fundamentals of the game and like power creep and everything. You know what I mean? What do you think other WoW players want 100 or 1,000 hour grinds? I think if you ask the player base, they're always going to choose like the shorter, quicker like rewards, but that's not good. Ultimately, for a forever MMO, you want longer grinds. I don't know if you want to make WoW. You definitely don't want to make WoW as grindy as RuneScape. Like, well, let's just say to max an Iron Man is going to be 365 days played, like a year played. You want it to be about 1/8 of that because there's 8 different classes. So if you were to play like a solo self-found Iron Man, or however long it takes to max a main, because WoW Classic will be mains. Everybody will be playing mains, where you can use the Grand Exchange, you can trade with people, all that. Everyone will be playing that mode at first. And then eventually solo self-found, which is Iron Man, will come out later, and then eventually hardcore will come out, and then those grinds should take longer. So however long it takes to max out a main, it should maybe be about 1/8 of that. However long it takes to max the main in RuneScape, it should be about 1/8 of that because there's 8 different classes. if you want to play all different classes. You got to understand that WoW is a game designed for you to play alts. So it's not meant to be like RuneScape, which I'm having to come to terms with because I don't like that. I liked maining one character and then putting my entire life into that one character, and then maybe have an alt after I've played that character for like a couple of years. But they design the game more for casuals because casual gamers are the ones that pay the subs. So they can't always design the game for me, which is why I like RuneScape, because it actually caters to both. Because you don't, it's a horizontal progression game. So even if you're only playing an hour a day, you're putting time into this character that 1 hour will always be there. You know, like that 1 hour is useful. Even if you only play 1 hour a week or a month or whatever, like that's a permanent 1 hour you've added to your character. And I like that style of game. And I hope that they can keep Classic Plus that style. So even if the grinds are long or short or whatever, it feels meaningful. That's the most important thing. Not like how long, I guess, it takes.
Request, but you also have Worgen, Dark Iron Dwarf, and in general a completely new race unique to Classic Plus, and further down at 14% is no new races. Next is revisiting known but unexplored zones, visiting zones that were part of Warcraft history but were never playable in the original World of Warcraft.
Yeah. They need to add these.
Mount Hyjal, Uldum, Gilneas. So
basically, there's parts of the map. So like if you look, I mean, I don't know if there's anything here, but like there's parts of the map that are here. Like in WoW, there's like a landmass with nothing on it, and you can't get there. You can literally see it on the map, right? And they never filled out those areas in Classic. So I think that they should fill out all of Azeroth in Classic Plus without adding like too many crazy zones and stuff like that that you can't already see there.
Another really common request, you'll see this in pretty much everyone's wish list.
Wait,
and that's reflect.
You're saying that is there cursed isles on the map somewhere in RuneScape? Does RuneScape have unexplored territories? Cursed Archipelago. Oh, sick. Okay, so RuneScape has areas on the map and menopause. So RuneScape had some stuff on the map that's unexplored and unfilled out. So basically like that. Basically, it's like, do you want them to... what is this area? Yeah, that's basically what he's saying here. Is like, do you want to fill out those islands? And I think yeah, it's a good idea. And especially Hyjal and Uldum.
In the public poll. For the most part, people want it. Kind of funny here that one of the options is yes, but only done well. As if the alternative is, yeah, but they have to be really shitty and poorly implemented. I don't get it. Couldn't you just have this for every question? Maybe it's that people's expectations are so low that when it comes to Blizzard, they have to clarify, like, okay, yeah, you can do this, but just to be clear, make it so it doesn't suck balls. I don't know. Player housing is a controversial one. Instance personalized housing for players and guilds. I couldn't find anything on the public survey for this one, so I guess I'll just use my opinion as filler. I do think that world presence is very important in vanilla, so I'm kind of wary of housing, but as long as it doesn't remove, a bunch of reasons to be in.
No. Everyone should sit in Orgrimmar. It's a crucial part of the WoW experience. Everyone should always be sitting in Org and Stormwind or Ironforge. The Alliance is kind of weird. I mean, everybody sits in Org on the Horde, but the Alliance is kind of like split Stormwind and Ironforge.
In the world, like how it was done in Draenor, where
you should always have people in the main city, so I would say no.
I think that's an example of player housing done poorly. It's possible that it could be done well in vanilla. It would have to be instant since the world isn't built for it, and some of you might know that they did plan it as far back as pre-release with that mysterious portal in Stormwind. That was supposed to be a housing district, and there also existed some GM commands for placing houses and whatnot, so they definitely had it in mind, but it was cut for various reasons. This infamous screenshot being one of them, because people could block off important areas. But the fact that it was intended pre-release gives it more authority for some players. I guess for me it's just heavily dependent on what the system actually looks like. Next, we have achievements, a system to track game milestones and accomplishments.
Yes.
Another controversial one here. Some people believe achievements were kind of the rise of the game being hyper objective oriented.
Yes.
And every action needing to have some sort of tangible reward to bombard dopamine receptors, while the other side just kind of likes it as another form of progression to work towards. The poll did have this question, and the community responded fairly split, but leaning in favor. Cross-realm play, the ability to group with friends from other realms for dungeons, battlegrounds, and other instances.
No, they just got to straight up steal RuneScape's world system. It's the best. Dude, how sick would it be if they just did RuneScape style servers? RuneScape style servers solves everything. RuneScape has the best servers in all of MMOs. I'm convinced. You can play with everybody. You can play on good ping, bad ping. You can play on a small world, a big world. There's worlds where people do RP. Like you're not limited to who you can play with. It's so good. It's so good. They need to. Dude, cross realm is bad. Layering is bad. Its queue times are bad. RuneScape has none of it. It solves everything. I'm convinced. If they could just do RuneScape servers, it would be a banger, and you would still have like the classic feel too.
Activities. It doesn't explicitly state grading here. I feel like.
I feel about the new quest. We can talk about that after this, Jam.
But regardless, it's another controversial one, and it's something that eventually came to retail in a few different forms. First was the cross-realm zoning in Pandaria, as the population started to thin out in order to keep the world alive, and then this sort of evolved further and further to.
That kills world PvP for PvP servers. What if you had every single person that likes PvP all on the same server PvPing each other, Zots? Every single person, EU, NA, doesn't matter if people just want to try it, experiment with it. There's like a PvP world that people would just hop on and they go fight if that's where they want to, and it's popping all the time. That's the PvP world. You're telling me that's going to kill PvP? Instead of one guy that's like just running around trying to find people all day? I swear. That would be so much better. You just go to the PvP world, just like RuneScape. They just go to the bounty hunter world and they fight each other.
To linked realms, and I think today you can do like cross-realm raiding.
Botting would become a bigger issue. Botting's already a big issue. They're not going to be able to deal with the bots anyway. You should never worry about botting as an excuse for doing something that is good. Like, you just don't. I wouldn't even worry about botting about in any decision, because it's just going to happen. It's just going to be there. Otherwise, they would have got rid of it. There's no consideration for botting ever in my mind.
But don't quote me on that. I haven't played retail in a
It's just part of the game now.
The argument for it is that it keeps options open, especially for servers that start to die or become imbalanced between factions. This was an issue that did happen with the 2019 run of Classic, so in that case, a system like this would be beneficial, at least for the players on the imbalanced faction. And the argument against it, as you would imagine, is that it dilutes the server's community, which is a fairly defining feature for vanilla. Many people agree. I couldn't find an equivalent question for this on the public poll, but if I had to guess, it would be another one that people would be pretty split on. Next, we have War Mode. As an alternative to PvP servers, this mode would allow you to opt into PvP in the open world via a toggle in main faction cities. So this was a BFA feature when they did away with the old PvP server system, where you would be able to toggle this mode in the city.
War mode bad.
In a layer with other people who
War
are
mode
in
bad.
the same mode as you chose. You get bonus rewards. You got access to new talents and stuff.
PvP
However, for
server,
this question,
good.
it seems like it would just be strictly for toggling PvP on and off. This is a majority no from the public poll. Personally, I do think it is kind of an anti-vanilla feature. PvP servers are kind of core to the game, like them or hate them, but it is closer at a second glance because
Ebonheart, what's good, bro?
Split between.
Yo, Ebonheart, what do you think about that take? Did you hear my last take about the servers? I need your take, bro. You're the one person I'd want to talk to. Did you hear it or not? Let me know. I didn't. I just got here. Do you know how RuneScape does servers, Ebonheart? Here's the take. World of Warcraft Classic Plus does RuneScape style servers where they have like 15 or 20 different servers. And some of them are PvP enabled and some of them are not. And you can hop between whichever server you want to play on. And then there'll be one server that's like a very populated, it'll be like a RP server. And people hop on that one. If you want to go RP, you do it. And then if you don't want to RP anymore, you want to go PvP, you hop on the PvP server and you go fight people in the open world. The idea is that all of the servers, you just log into one and then you just play on it. And if you don't want to play on a PvP server, you log out of that one and you transfer over to a different world. That basically there's no layering ever. And so if I'm on world 425, I say, Ebonheart, log into world 425. Let's go run a dungeon. You log over, we go run. It causes all of it, and it would unite the auction house on every realm. So you'd have regulated prices on every realm. So there would be no people that are like buying stuff on one world, transferring to another, and then selling it for way more. So there's no smuggling anymore either. I think it solves a lot of issues. Mining nodes and herbs, yeah, that's what's great about it, is if you want to farm mining nodes and herbs, you want to farm Black Lotus, you try to go to find the smallest world possible and you go farm on that world. There's not going to be like, there'll be some worlds that are quote unquote dead, and those are the worlds that you go to get herbs and stuff. That's the point of it. It's got, I really haven't seen much negatives to the RuneScape server system. And I don't know why WoW hasn't done it. And the only reason I can think of is because they want you to pay $20 for transfers. But the RuneScape has the best server system. If Classic Plus could do it, it would be insane. It would be so good. I didn't like it at first, but I've come to love the RuneScape system. WoW player base is 10 times the size. So make a bunch of servers. And that's the thing. You don't have to worry about dead servers at the end of the day, because that's the biggest issue is servers die, right? But like, that's the point. There's supposed to be a bunch of dead servers where you can hop around and you can go farm herbs without competition. So now you start with 100 servers, and then all of a sudden, if your player base starts shrinking, Blizzard can delete 10 servers. Or they can add 20 more servers. And that's it. I think a simple solution to solving dilemma and drama is that you transfer off PvP server onto a PvE server, and then you can't transfer back for 1 week. That way PvPers can stop bitching. Yeah, maybe. But I just love the idea of being able to just hop worlds whenever you want. And you can go use your character to RP, to PvP, or to just not get ganked all day on world PvE. Like, who cares if somebody leveled their character on a PvE server and then they go PvP? Like, why is that an issue? That's like some old school way of thinking. To me, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, I genuinely believe it's got a lot of fundamental value. I think so too. Let's say a server can hold 1,000 players. What happens when all those players are at the crossroads in the Barrens? Well, that's why they probably shouldn't do 1,000 person server. However many people that like, because you know what's the problem right now is in Classic. Let's say we want to do a 200 on 200 Horde versus Alliance battle, when we're all going to meet up at Stromgarde, right? Everybody's like, all right, meet at Stromgarde, you versus us. You can't do that because right now you would all be layered into 9 different layers. If everyone was like, all right, look, in 10 seconds, I'm going to call a world number. We're all going to transfer to that world, and then we're going to fight. Yeah, like the whole invite to Aspen layer thing is just a meme now. Classic Plus should learn a lot from adjacent MMOs. WoW is at its peak when it stole best features from all the competing MMOs. Agree. They just have to make the servers be able to handle as many people that can be in a certain area. So I hope that the servers would be able to handle it. I mean, it's 2026. Can we not handle 400 people in one zone? I'm not sure. I don't have the answer for that. They'd have to figure out like how many people could be able to be in one zone without the crashing the server. OSRS worlds get laggy at 800 players with a cap of 2K. Yeah. What does happen in RuneScape? Okay, so this is like the first bad thing about the RuneScape servers is that what happens when you bring like 1,000 people into one area is you stop seeing some people. And you only see like a max, you're only rendering like a maximum of like 50 to 60 players at one time. That's kind of what happens if you put all those players in one area. It's not layering. Everybody's there. You just can't really see them. The radius goes down. But RuneScape is still using the same servers. Classic Plus has the opportunity to like move their game to new servers that are stronger. I don't know what the technology is. I'm not in that business, but there's got to be some servers that can handle maybe a couple hundred people in one area at a time. Calling for server performance. You know what? And if the technology is not there, then you just can't have mass battles. That's just something that can't happen. But I think that overall, the majority of problems are solved by the RuneScape servers. Anyways, let's keep going on with the video.
Yes, with XP bonuses, and
but
yes,
war
but
mode
with
bad.
No bonus. So
war mode bad.
It is another fairly close answer here. Next, we have 3 questions. One for 10-player raids, another for 20, and another for 40. And the closest public
hybrid
poll
raids.
is this. People are asked to rank them 1 through 7, with 20 winning by a pretty large margin. 10 is third, right behind the standard since Burning Crusade 25. And 40 is all the way down at 6 with 5.1. This one surprised me. I guess I'm in the minority here, but I do think that 40-player raids are a pretty big part of the identity of vanilla, considering that, you know, it was Burning Crusade.
So the only reason I like 40-man raids, well, two reasons. Number one, the energy with 40 people in the raid is crazy. It's really awesome. It's not practical, but I do like the energy with 40 people in the raid. It feels more like a mass like raid. You're going to go do something. But number two, it keeps a very small amount of people getting gear. When you give out too much gear, when people get the gear, they quit. So you need people to raid and play the game all the time, but you don't want them to get gear. And so 40-man helps that. The less people you take, the more people get gear, and then those people will quit as soon as they get it. So it's this balance of like raiding every week, hoping that you get something, but then you don't get it, so that you can still have a reason to play the next week. And so 40-man is good for that, but it's not practical. So I would prefer 20-man raids, but with like 1 item per boss, like 1 item drops per boss.
Is where
like
they
less loot.
Scaled them down, and they did that for a reason. But I don't know, there's just something about gathering 40 different players that's very memorable of vanilla World of Warcraft to me. I know that they're annoying and they're harder to set up and coordinate, especially for raid leaders. It's a nightmare, but for me, I don't know, it kind of falls in line with the slippery slope mentality. If you remove the most annoying thing in the game, there's always a new most annoying thing to be pruned until,
you know,
eventually you're not even playing vanilla World of Warcraft anymore. Some people say slippery slope fallacy, to which I respond, told you so, by the way. I don't know. I guess I am in the minority, but I say that 40-player raids is a primary, with 20-player raids as kind of like a support, just like how they did the ZG AQ20 dynamic that vanilla had. Next, we have various graphic improvements, similar to the character model question from earlier, just higher resolution textures.
I like how Scarlet Monastery is tuned for 20, but you can bring 40. Yeah, I think that's fine. And the reason that's fine is because now you're getting less loot. So you're being punished. If you're being punished for bringing more people, I think it's fine. What raid? Well, what boss is like that? Next is easier, right? In a next mass, but you never get loot. So that's why you want to do it. If you do it in 3-man, you have a higher chance of getting loot. I think next is a good loot system. Like mass. Next mass is perfect.
Realistic lights, shadows, and so on. Unfortunately, there's no matching poll for this, but the closest I could find is Unreal Engine-esque graphics on a 1 to 10 scale, with the majority heavily against it, slightly less kind of indifferent, and 14% for it. New trade skills, another pretty common request. Usually you'll see this in the form of the long-lost survival skill, where you'd make campfires and torches to light up dark areas of the game. This one was actually implemented by the Turtle WoW private server, you know, the one that Blizzard shut down because it was too good. The response for this one is an overwhelming yes at 60%, 27% say no, just stick with the originals, while the remainder are indifferent. New battlegrounds, again, another very common request. As you'd expect, people are generally in favor, as Vanilla World of Warcraft only has the 3 original battlegrounds, the Warsong Gulch, Arathi Basin, and Altric Valley. As for new race and class combinations, it's another one that's fairly split down the middle within the community, I'd say. Keep in mind, this isn't newer races or classes, just
I don't care about this.
Like, remember in Cataclysm, we got Gnome Priests, Night Elf Mages, for instance. This was a resounding yes, but only if the lore makes sense, so you wouldn't have anything crazy like Gnome Shamans or something. Next is new class, but specifically one that's unique to Classic Plus, so no Death Knights or Monks or anything. And this one surprised me, with 42% saying no, and behind is yes, but only completely new classes.
Should Classic Plus have new classes? Nah. Keep it to the 8.
Followed lastly by the ones that we've seen from other expansions. This one, if you forced me to guess, I would have thought that it would have been a resounding yes, since people get so excited for new classes. I'm not saying I disagree with it, but if you're on the no side, I would like to hear your reasoning why. My guess is that it would just be too far of a leap.
Bro's already getting bored of OSRS. Dude, that is a terrible rage bait. I play this game 12 hours a day. I play this game more than you, buddy.
And it wouldn't feel like vanilla, as the original collection of classes are so iconic to it, which I agree with, but at the same time, you have other options here that I feel the same way about, and they go the opposite direction, like no 40-man raids or Alliance Shamans and Horde Paladins. So, yeah, this one surprised me. And lastly, we have transmogrification, which is another huge controversial one. The ability to change the appearance of your equipped items. It'll only be available in rested areas, dungeons, or raids, so everything but PvP, including the open world, I suppose.
Transmog is
this one
ass.
I'm kind of against. I think that it's a pretty critical part of Vanilla's identity to show what people are actually wearing.
Yup.
Clown suits are like hand in hand with Vanilla World of Warcraft, in my opinion. I mean, my entire channel avatar is the warrior clown suit for the Blackwing Lair tier, so I'm definitely biased here. But here's what the community thinks, with the majority saying no. About half of that is at yes, with the rest just being no opinion, which is oddly split up into 2 categories. So yeah, very controversial. I personally say no. People want it, obviously, so you can look cooler and better express yourself, as they say. And this is just my opinion.
Do you know why that guy looks cool? Because he had to get the gear himself. Can you imagine if people were running around in infernal capes that they didn't earn? Holy crap, that would ruin the game.
I feel like in many ways, the lack of a transmog is actually more expressive, because what you're wearing kind of tells a story about your character. It tells other people what you've done, what you haven't done, what kind of a player you are, your rating progression, if you're a leveler, what zones you leveled in. You can see a guy.
Yeah, I know you guys are memeing that some people bought their Inferno capes, but but you have to understand that there's some people that'll be like, nah, the Inferno cape shouldn't be in the game because that makes people want to buy it. You guys know that's the reason that Blizzard gave to get rid of GDKPs. That's the reason. They said GDK, like most of the player base was using GDKP as a form of raid loot distribution in the raids, and they said, nah, we're not going to allow that because it inspires gold buying. And so, can you imagine if RuneScape was like, nah, we're not gonna put infernal capes, or we're not gonna put like Zuckhelms, or we're not gonna put like Torva, or we're not gonna put Radiant Oath because that inspires people to want to buy it because they're not good enough to get it. Like that's just not a good reason. I think that this is the best part. The best part of old school RuneScape is there are hard things to get in the game that give you a cosmetic transmog. I think that is the best part. No transmog ever in Classic Plus, please.
running around, you'd be like, oh, looks like he did the Dead Mines, or oh, looks like that guild's still progressing through Molten Core. They're probably a new guild. Or that guy looks like he's a pretty new player. Or maybe this person is obviously a high-ranking player in this guild because Nexramus just came out and he has so much of the gear already. Or maybe he egregiously swipes his credit card in GDKP runs. But the point I'm trying to make is that what your character wears tells such a story in vanilla. And usually what happens with transmog is that people just kind of mog into the boring tier sets because they look the most cohesive, especially in vanilla, since there's so much fewer armor sets compared to retail WoW, which, you know, has over 100 now, probably, right? I think because of that, you would really kind of run into the problem of everybody being clones of one another and just doing the same boring things, and I don't know. I feel like it would just massively take away from the old school aesthetic of the game. I think it's more important than things like a new class. How your character looks is one of the most valued forms of character progression in an MMO.
Yes.
I mean, why else do people pay like thousands of fucking dollars on cash shops to buy cool looking mounts or pets or whatever? And it's not even just the MMO. So many games out there have these cosmetic cash shops, and it's for a reason. People pay out the ass for them. And why do they pay out the ass for them? Because they value them. And because they are valued, they are...
Counter-Strike is different, though. Counter-Strike's cash shop, like, Counter-Strike has NFTs, essentially. Like, everything you buy in the game is tradable, and it's worth money. I don't know how I feel about, like, an MMO having NFT-style items that are actually worth money to be, and they're tradable on the shop and stuff. Like this knife is worth $5,000. These gloves, $8,000. It's pretty crazy. I don't know. Technically, I mean, yeah, I guess technically OSRS is worth money because of bonds that they're indirectly worth it. But Counter-Strike is like worth actual dollars. You could just buy this stuff. I don't know how I would feel if RuneScape's items were like on an actual dollar shop like this.
Are important, even if it's not some form of functional character progression, like how much damage you deal, how much you heal, how much damage you mitigate, is evidence with how much money people spend on them. They're valued super high within gaming at large, MMOs especially, since it's a multiplayer game, and you know, you have this added element of you're not the only one looking at your armor set, right? A lot of the times you want to show off cool armor sets or other cosmetics to other people. So yeah, anything aesthetic wise or looks, I think you have to be very careful, especially if you're doing a Classic Plus and you kind of want to maintain the original feel of the game. I think it's something that can get out of control really quickly. I could probably make a whole video about this, as you can tell, but I'm kind of getting off topic here. But that was most of the survey and the closest matching public surveys from the Classic Plus project. There are many more questions on the site that I'll leave you to check out and answer for yourselves if you want, but I just wanted to stick with ones that Blizzard asked because I feel like those are the most important, and they kind of give a more accurate idea of what the game will look like on the, again, not guaranteed, but 99% chance in my opinion that it gets announced at BlizzCon in September. But that's about it. Out of all of the information that's publicly available, between the features of Season of Discovery, which was a testing ground, and the official survey, this is the closest idea of what this theoretical Classic Plus could be. I do have some more videos planned in the future. These days I'm doing a lot of OSRs as well, but I do like to check in from time to time into World of Warcraft, and I'll try to be relatively active with things related to Classic Plus specifically, if and when new information drops. But other than that, thank you for watching. Like the video if you liked it, because I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Dude, Mad Season is the king of making these videos, bro. He's so good at it. What do you guys think, man? Do you guys think Classic Plus is going to be a banger, or is it going to fail? I don't know. I'm optimistic, but I'm getting hyped about it. I would say that as it gets closer, I'm starting to get more hyped about it. There's just something in the air, bro. It's going to make money for sure. Oh, it's going to be boring after 6 months. You think Classic Plus is going to last 6 months? That would be a record. That would be an absolute record if a WoW patch lasted 6 months. That would be 3 times more successful than any other WoW patch, bro.